Hey everybody, you're tuned in to Bat Jack JW. Here we are, and the radio show. So we have it's been a little while since we've done one. So here we are, we're back at it. Radio show 154. Hard to believe that we've done this many of them. And I'm actually going to post this up. So here it is, late night. If you're tuning in right now, it's a late night. You check out the show here, or you might be in the morning. You have your cup of coffee, you're ready to go. Bob is back from the range, cleaning your stuff, or depends on where you're at. Maybe Joe, you're on your boat, relaxing. So, anyway, either way, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here and listening. This is really appreciated. That's why we do these things, mainly right here. We keep cranking along on this channel because of all of you folks that are tuned in and listening and curious and all that. So some of the recent activity here on the radio show channel. We did a kind of an overlook on a recent buy of mine, a movie called The Beyond that I remember watching way back and remember hearing a lot about it. It was one of those films that came out and was heavily censored because of the gratuitous gore in it. Of course, by today's standards, it's like absolutely nothing. But for me, those kind of movies hold up really well. I like them, and so when I saw that there was like a Grindhouse releasing special edition on it, so I had to pick it up. Being it is on the expensive side, that's why I wanted to do an unboxing video, kind of a look at it in a sense of what you get in that, and is it worth it. The other one before that, we did a chat box, and we talked about some stuff, a lot of things to remember, like back the good old days of Blockbuster video rental places. And I remember mentioning this some time back, that if you wanted to hear some stories about the old video stores in my town, I was going to tell it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So on that one, I had some comments that came through. It was really awesome to see. Joe P. He said, I too miss Blockbuster. I think that's why I still get DVDs from Netflix instead of streaming. It's not the same thing. Yeah, it is different. Streaming a movie is different. Even though I do it, I have the Amazon Prime, and I stream a lot of different movies. If I can watch it on there, But I'm that guy, even though, like, so for instance, if it was free, I could stream it or whatever. If I really like the movie, I'll go and buy it. I'll own the physical copy of it. That's just me. And I've always felt like whenever you, like, even back with VHS or especially VHS, it's kind of like this thing where if you're going to invest into it, you're going to be a part of that family, if you would, if you're going to get into, tapes or discs, DVDs, Blu-ray, whatnot, vinyl records, etc. It's something that I feel like you can't really just go part way in. Either you're in or you're not. Me, I tend to go all the way in, and I have a large collection, and it comes with a certain amount of respect and care. You have to now care for these things. You have to take care of them. You have to, if you value them. A lot of times, a lot of stuff I buy goes out of print. It's gone, and it becomes very expensive. There's a lot of stuff I had in the past that I had gotten rid of or let go, and now I'm looking on the like, say, for instance, Amazon, like my number one source for shopping for these things. You wind up looking, going, my God, like the copy of the movie Martin the Vampire, directed by the late great George Romero. That I had that. I remember buying it from, I think, like Borders Books or something, and purchasing it for like $12 or something. And now it's like $50-something on Amazon if you can find it now. And I think you can get maybe a used copy for not much cheaper. But surprisingly, that I can't believe how expensive those have gotten. And I unfortunately let go of my copy. I don't remember exactly what happened to it, but it's kind of a bummer that I had let go of some of these. So, a little fun fact, actually, I'll throw this out there. In the movie Westworld, now that it become a TV show, but I liked the old original with Yul Brynner, and I want to say it's James Brolin. The scene where they throw the acid onto Yul Brynner and you see him melt. How they did that was they they crushed up Alka-Seltzer really fine and mixed it into the makeup, and so when the water hit it, it fizzled up and looked like gave it the effect that it was kind of melting him up or disintegrating him. So it was kind of interesting. Didn't know that. So now let's take back some good old memories. As let's see. Well, we got a comment here. One. It's Bob Hartman. I'm actually in the process of cleaning out my old VHS stuff. Man, Bob, take a look at some of those, because before you toss them, some of them are worth some money. I can't believe I'm saying that, because as many as I've had, there are some that have gone up for some dollars. I know ones that are exceptionally rare and kind of hard to find are a lot of the cheesy old horror flicks from way back. Some of them on VHS that exist on VHS are definitely kind of collector's items. And so we got Scott F here. He says Blockbuster brings back memories from long ago, and VHS. Good chat box. Nicolas Cage is a character. Good stuff. So growing up for me in the neighborhood, there was multiple video rental places. Down the south area in my town, there was a place called Scott's Videos. Scott's Videos had a lot of really good old, because it was an old video store. It remained there quite a while, and it's still, gosh, I don't know if it's still there. I think it closed down, but it was the place to go. And then there was another little a little one called the Canaleo Video, and actually my mom's friend worked there, and I remember going there and being like babysat and would sit there with her, and actually I would just go out and grab tapes from the shelf or whatever and watch them all during the whole time. I'd just be watching these tapes. And then so now in town, this is kind of before Blockbuster showed up, and I remember when Blockbuster showed up, it really put a hurt on a lot of these video stores, because a lot of these video stores were real mom and pop stuff. There was a video show place, and that was below the drugstore down in this little plaza area. And that was like the coolest one, because that's the one I remember going with my parents on like a Friday night and a weekend. We would go in their video show place. It was just cool. Like, it had all the cool sections. I remember renting all those, kid 80s ninja movies and stuff like that. But then there was like this little cave that you could go into, like a walk-in cave. And it was, I remember it had a black light in it. And it was really cool because I used to go in there as a kid and look at my shirt and stuff like that. And it would glow different colors. But that's where all the horror flicks were. Oh boy, I tell you, that's where. And I remember seeing Jaws and Friday the 13th and the Freddy Kruegers and all those, and then all those weird ones like Creepshow and Dawn of the Dead. But just seeing them all and the way the covers kind of got illuminated off there, it was just really cool. I remember that just like. That was a cool little thing, and I remember being like intimidated and yet intrigued, and like, oh, I want to like challenge, like I want to watch Creepshow too, but I wonder how scary it is. But I really liked it. I mean, I really wanted to, I wanted to get, rent them and check them out and do all that. It was just something I really wanted to do. But I do remember that. That was the one we visited a lot. There was always the popcorn machine. You could go there, and I think, honestly, I want to say the popcorn was either free, or if you rented a tape, you got the popcorn for free if you wanted to. And then I would always raid their little bin right in front of the registers there. They would sell some of the tapes, and I was always the one buying like the horror ones and whatnot. So that was always really really cool. Now there was this other one. There was another really good one, and it was called Doctor Video. Now, Doctor Video had some. That was a real like definitely. It was a privately owned thing, and it was this guy Gordon that ran it. He owned it. And I remember this, and I actually later on found him again. Like this was actually kind of like within the last 10 years, and I remember getting tapes, VHS tapes, transferred over to DVD because they were out of print or something, and the only way I could get it was actually get the tape. So, but anyhow, he had this little. It was called Doctor Video, and it had changed locations since I remember it. It was once. It was once in the industrial area, the old industrial area in town. That was what they called it. It was once there, and then it moved to this other little, kind of a makeshift little what they called the Kamehameha Mall. Yeah, the area. It was like a pink building. That's how I always remembered it. But I remember this guy. His store had like the real grungy like horror flicks, like stuff that you would like, even the stuff like that you would never, that you certainly was like, wow, like this exists. Stuff like that, like really bizarro stuff. That was when I remember seeing the Faces of Death VHS tape, you know, and I remember having that big warning, like, oh, this is true shockumentary. If the depictions of actual death upset you, do not watch this movie, you know, and all that. And of course, later on, I come to find out it was all indeed staged. There was very few actual depictions of death in it. And it's just those shockumentary things. Just total cool 70s, like the artwork was the best of it. The artwork was the most intriguing because it had that skull with that Reaper, you know, looking thing on it, and you know, it's just creepy. It was just like, but then, you know, it just kind of instilled that like, ooh, that gross out video. In a sense, now looking back at it, yeah, there's some, you know, there's some stuff in it that is definitely, I mean, you wouldn't sit around and watch it for fun, but it's kind of the nostalgic cult kind of following, you would call it. It is a weirdo film, but he had all those. I remember he had all those bizarro ones. My dad purchased a copy of Raw Deal from them, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and I remember that tape was so old. Even the back of it, you look in those where the gears were, where the little the spools that held the film, they were yellow. That's how old the tape was. But I remember purchasing a tape in there. It was Psycho Cop and Bobby Ray Schaefer. Total cheeseball 80s horror flick. Totally worst, like the worst acting you could possibly ever see. Absolutely not a good film. I mean, I wouldn't even recommend, but it's all right. I mean, if you can handle cheeseball 80s kind of slasher flicks, then it's definitely kind of fun. But it really is kind of terrible. But I don't even think I still have my copy of it. I think it's long gone. But I remember seeing that, and I bought that on videotape, and I had that for a long time. And then I also bought from him. I bought from that little bargain tray area. I bought Play Misty for Me with Clint Eastwood, and that was like, I think, his directorial debut right there. I remember buying that from him and just being so excited because I had like one of the original, you know, copies of it. And that was one thing I always, like, for me, I was kind of weird like that with VHS tapes. I was really picky on which ones I would buy. I wanted the old look. I wanted the old ones, the old covers, the old labels. I mean, right down to the way the labels were on the tape. That's how, you know, I don't know. It's just weird. People might find it weird, but that's the way it was. And that's like, even still, like today, like with a lot of the DVDs, I kind of, you know, go after the ones that have the covers that I remember way back that I remember. I was like, yeah, I remember this. This is the way it was. Yeah, that's what I remember about it. So that's kind of where I am with those. But yeah, looking back, those were fun times. Going to the video stores were just fun times. And of course, then Blockbuster came into town, and that's when a lot of these places closed up. I remember when Video Showplace finally shut down. It had moved to three different locations when it finally shut down. But I remember watching it close. Big sign on the window, store closing, and they were selling off all their tapes and discs and everything, and it was really sad for me. I remember just kind of thinking, wow, it was I was sad when I saw all those things closing, and then of course when Blockbuster closed, it was really surreal for me. It really marked like, wow, I saw a big chunk of my childhood going away, dying in a sense, and all I can say is I'm so glad that I got to experience it. I got to live that last part of that generation of that kind of thing. I always say, in a cheesy way, that I'm an Alf kid. That's my youth, was the TV show, the sitcom Alf. That was just I guess that's my generation. That's my childhood. I still have my Alf hand puppet doll thing that we got from Burger King, or I think that was where it came from. But that was me. That was. And I got to experience it all. I got to experience the Friday night going to the video store, renting VHS tapes and VCRs, and having the videotape rewinders. And then, of course, when they didn't work properly, you had to stack a few tapes on top of it to hold it down so it would rewind, properly or something like that. I just, taping stuff off TV, that's where the term came from. You taped it. Hey, did you tape that show last night? Now it's, I don't know, whatever they do now. I guess you can just like save it, or I don't know. I'm just not keen to all that, but I remember my grandpa going to Costco and buying the pack of blank tapes, the big old pack. I mean, he'd go and buy like a dozen at a time, and I'd always go in there and go, hey, can I have a tape? I want to tape something off TV, or yeah, go in there, grab a tape, make my own label and all that. All the way back from that to watching wrestling. I remember it as WWF, World Wrestling Federation, for instance. Seeing all that. Now it's, I don't know, it's quite a joke. I quit watching it in the late 90s. But, a lot of that stuff for me brings back a lot of memories. It's really neat. And so that's why here you see a lot of reference. I do a lot of stuff with the film and movies, because those are what I cling on to, and I don't really care for a lot of new stuff. But although I don't bash it entirely, because there is a lot of new stuff that comes out that I wound up liking. That's pretty decent. But anyhow, I'm gonna leave you guys to it. There it is, a little bit of my videotape rental stores of my youth. Bring back history, throwback stories, if you will. So I do appreciate it. I'm Bat Jack JW. Like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for tuning in.